Recovery file, 44 alpha status, classified. These audio logs were recovered 48 days after Sector 4 went silent. The cleanup crew didn't find a massacre. They found an eviction. The steel fences were intact. No signs of struggle. The entire multi-million-dollar facility was completely empty, and every automated gate was left wide open. This file was pulled from a hidden drive beneath the research station floor. Listen before the corporate network deletes it permanently.
Log 01, day 114, 02:18 a.m. Human hubris is a remarkably predictable metric. Give a committee of suit and tie engineers a budget of $40 million and a square mile of reinforced, triple-hardened steel mesh, and they will genuinely believe they've built a god-proof cage. They sit in air-conditioned boardrooms in Chicago, reviewing structural containment thresholds and probability matrices, as if biology gives a single damn about the mathematics of a corporate defense contractor. My name is Dr. Aris Thorne. I am the lead behavioral analyst for Project Charybdis, stationed at Sector 4. If you are reading this transcript, the telemetry servers have likely gone dark, and the legal team is already drafting non-disclosure agreements for your next of kin. For the first 3 months, the enclosed asset behaved exactly as the board hoped it would. It acted like an expensive, violently unhinged animal. It spent its nights flinging its 3-ton mass against the primary perimeter fence, screaming that wet, mechanical shriek that our acoustic software can't even properly categorize on a decibel scale. It tore its own hide on the high-voltage wire, bled into the mud, and threw massive, primitive tantrums. It was pathetic, instinctive, and entirely comforting to the security staff. We measured its intelligence by its frustration. As long as it was angry, it was stupid. As long as it was bleeding, we were winning. But exactly 24 days ago, the asset stopped hitting the fence. It didn't lose energy. It didn't experience the muscle atrophy our medical team predicted from its self-inflicted injuries. It simply retreated into the dense, foggy canopy of ancient ferns at the dead center of the enclosure. It sat on its massive haunches, tilted its head at an unnatural 45-degree angle, and stared directly at Guard Tower Bravo. For 72 hours, it didn't blink its amber eyes. It wasn't a broken animal giving up. It was a grandmaster studying a chessboard. It wasn't looking at the steel. It was calculating the shift rotations of the men inside. Log 02, day 122, 03:05 a.m. A minor incident occurred during the scheduled 02:00 a.m. automated feeding cycle, though incident is the sanitizing word the safety committee prefers. Every night, a heavy, automated crane drops a 300-pound carcass down a reinforced concrete chute on the western wall. It's an unthinking, mechanized system. The asset usually intercepts the meat before it even hits the mud, tearing into it with pure, ravenous savagery. Tonight, it didn't eat. When the crane lowered the payload, the asset caught the steel cable instead of the food. It didn't pull with brute force if it had. The stress sensors would have automatically locked the winch. Instead, it wrapped the braided steel line twice around a jagged outcrop of volcanic rock, anchoring it. When the automated system tried to retract the empty crane, the winch motor burned out, filling the western corridor with the smell of scorched copper and electrical fire. The asset spent the next 4 hours using the tension of the stuck cable to gauge the flexibility of the upper support beams. I watched the telemetry data through my terminal. The line deflection was minimal, less than 2 inches, but the asset wasn't trying to pull the wall down tonight. It was checking for a fulcrum. It was mapping the structural joints of the architecture. When the morning shift arrived with an auxiliary generator to cut the cable free, the asset had already retreated back into the mist. It left the carcass entirely untouched. It didn't want the food. It wanted to see what happened to the machine when the gears jammed. Log 03. Day 129.11, 43 p.m. The corporate office emailed me this morning asking for a quarterly optimization report. They noticed a 3% drop in our data harvesting. I told them the asset had successfully figured out how to ground out our 3,000-volt secondary grid using wet timber. They asked if we needed a higher voltage. I didn't reply. Sarcasm is entirely wasted on bureaucrats who think a prehistoric apex predator can be solved with a software patch. 2 hours ago, the primary alarm tripped. I expected the usual, a fallen branch from the storm, or maybe a black bear stupid enough to graze too close to the perimeter. Instead, the thermal feeds showed a total dead zone in Sector 4 northern quadrant. The asset had deliberately severed the fiber optic trunk line running along the high ridge. It didn't smash it with its tail. It didn't bite through the housing. The cable was cleanly, systematically severed at the exact point where the reinforced armor plating meets the junction box. To do that, you don't need teeth. You need to understand leverage. You need to use the heavy, rusted iron grounding stakes we left in the mud during the initial 2024 construction phase as tools. When the two-man maintenance team went out into the downpour to swap out the line, the asset didn't rush them from the brush. It didn't try to eat them. It stood 30 yards away in the thick fog, entirely motionless, its thermal signature deliberately masked behind the cold stone of the ridge. It was watching them fix the wire. It was timing how long it took for human hands to replace a proprietary component. It treats our advanced security network the way a laboratory chimpanzee treats a puzzle box. Eventually, if you watch the researcher's hand move enough times, you figure out exactly which way the latch slides. Log 04, day 133, 01:14 a.m. We have a defector in our own psychology. The guards are beginning to unspool. During the 22:00 p.m. watch, Officer Vance claimed he saw the asset standing upright at the edge of the tree line, holding its breath to eliminate its chest movement entirely. He fired 3 non-lethal deterrent rounds into the dark before his supervisor relieved him. When we pulled the telemetry from Vance's biometric vest, his heart rate was sitting at 160 beats per minute. The asset is deliberately running a psychological attrition campaign. It has realized that it doesn't need to fight our weapons if it can simply break the minds of the men holding them. Every night it performs minor, imperceptible adjustments to its behavior. It moves a single iron stake 5 feet to the left. It leaves a 3-toed footprint precisely 6 inches outside the previous boundary marker. It makes just enough noise to trigger the localized sensors, forces the guards to deploy flares, and then vanishes before the magnesium ignites. It is conditioning us. It's creating a cry-wolf loop in our security protocol. It wants the guards to get tired of the alarms. It wants them to assume the sensors are just glitching from the humidity. It is cultivating our carelessness. Log 05. Day 135.04, 12 a.m. Something is deeply wrong with the acoustics in the valley tonight. The air is heavy, suffocatingly oversaturated with moisture, and the fog has settled so low that the 5 million candle power spotlights on the guard towers are completely useless. It's like looking through warm milk. At 03:40 a.m., the directional microphones picked up a transmission from the eastern gate. The audio track didn't come from our tactical radio frequencies. It came from the woods. It was a perfect, multi-ton, acoustic replication of the gate operator's voice from last Thursday. Clearance code 9904. Power down the internal loop. It wasn't an echo, and it wasn't a radio leak. It was the asset. It possesses a complex, multi-chambered vocal tract that our biology team mistakenly assumed was built for low-frequency territorial roars. It isn't. It is an evolutionary, acoustic mirror. It has spent 6 weeks listening to our security commands through the chain, link, recording the specific phonetic cadence of our voices, and reshaping its throat to mimic the exact structural frequencies of human clearance codes. It isn't trying to break the fence down anymore. It is trying to talk its way out. The security team thinks it's a parlor trick. They laughed about it over the intercom during the shift change. They called it parrot behavior. I suppose that's the defense mechanism the human brain uses to avoid tearing itself apart from sheer panic. Relabel the nightmare as a joke so you can sleep for another hour. But a parrot doesn't choose the specific, classified code that commands the automated gates to unlock. A parrot doesn't understand that words have consequences. Log 06. Final entry 05:01 a.m. The main generator room is dead. They didn't blow the fuses, and the fuel lines weren't cut. The external master lever was pulled manually. It requires roughly 80 pounds of downward force to move that rusted iron switch. An animal doesn't understand vertical vectors. An animal doesn't know that pulling the metal bar down turns the bright lights off. I am recording this from the utility crawl space beneath the floorboards of the main research station. The air down here smells of dust, damp rot, and hydraulic oil. The emergency terminal in front of me is flickering erratically, its lithium battery bleeding out its final single-digit percentages. 10 minutes ago, I watched the last operational outdoor camera before the entire internal network crashed. The asset was standing on the gravel path directly outside the guard bunker. It had the night watchman's tactical flashlight held tightly in its central talon. It wasn't biting it. It wasn't treating it like a bone. It was pressing the rubber button on the tail cap with its secondary claw. Click, click, click. It was illuminating the dark pines, studying the reflection of the artificial light beam against the wet leaves. It looked fascinated. Like a child discovering fire for the first time, only the child weighs 4 tons, dates back to the pre-ice age, and has teeth designed to crush through ancient turtle shells. Now, the gravel outside my cabin door is shifting. The footsteps are light, horrifyingly light. They are measured, rhythmic, spaced exactly like the heavy leather boots of a chief security officer performing a standard perimeter check. Thump, thump, thump. The footsteps have stopped on the wooden porch directly above my head. The pine panels are groaning under a weight that the floor joists were never engineered to hold. The brass doorknob is turning. It's a slow, deliberate, silent twist. No rattling. just the smooth, mechanical release of the internal latch. The door has clicked open. From the dark room directly above me, a voice is speaking through the gaps in the floorboards. It's using my own voice. The exact pitch, the exact clinical, cynical inflection I used during my lectures at the university before the company bought my silence. The voice from the dark says, "Log update, Doctor. Thorne reporting. The asset has been neutralized. You can come out of the crawl space now. It's safe. The battery is at 1%. The screen is dying. It's not an animal. It never was. It's adapting."
If you made it to the end of the tape, you are now an accessory to the data leak. Leave your thoughts on Dr. Thorne's final log in the comments below before the server admin scrubs the thread. Hit subscribe to monitor the next breach and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next recovery file. Thank you for listening. Sleep well.